Ladies, first I just want to thank Black Enterprise and AT&T for putting this panel together. I don't think we talk enough about the non-traditional path to tech. And if you had asked me, like Stephanie, just 3 years ago, if I could see myself working at Google, the answer would have been an absolute no. As a Black woman, with no tech experience, no computer science degree, I just didn't think that it was within my realm of possibility. Add to that the fact that I am a product of an HBCU. And we know that Clark Atlanta, any AUC? Come on, y'all. Okay. So Clark Atlanta University grad of 2000. And so, you know, I just had a very non-traditional path. I started out in the entertainment industry, worked there for many years, transitioned to work for the Alzheimer's Association as the head of diversity and inclusion for their national office, and then finally landed in the Obama administration and Obama for America campaign. And so when Election Day came, we knew two things. One, we were hoping that President Obama would be reelected, and two, we knew that we would be out of jobs. And I, at the time, had a 4-month-old son. I was out of a job. You know, all of the excitement around the win was great, but the next day the reality was that we had to figure out what we were going to do next. And so some of us went back into the administration, and I took a leap of faith. I took a step back to spend some time with my son and really evaluated where I wanted to go with my life and with my career over the next 10 years. And there were three things. One, I wanted to build wealth. And I knew that if I stayed in the political arena, no shade, if I continued to work for nonprofit companies and the entertainment industry, I would never be in a position to build true generational wealth. And so that was the first key. The second was I wanted to work for a large company at large scale and do work for our people. And our people meaning Black women. And so I knew that if I were able to get into that industry, I would make it my absolute goal and focus to make sure that I'm taking every resource and opportunity that I have within this big company to pour it back into our community for real impact. So that was two. And then the third was I just wanted to be able to spend some time with my family. And I don't think we realize often enough that, you know, in these big companies, while they are high pressure positions, there's a lot of flexibility. And so for me, that was important, to be able to do great work, to work hard, but still be able to spend some time with my family. And so long story short is I applied for a position. It was at the time focused on Black community engagement, 8 interviews, and 5 months later, just like Stephanie, I landed the role and knew no one in that company. And so it was a testament to the fact that when we kind of get out of our own way and just take that first step, we'd be surprised sometimes at what opportunities do come. And so I know we have to move fast. And so I'll just end by saying, so I'm responsible for our engagement of women and Black communities around recruitment, getting more of us in the door, retention, making sure that once we're in the door, we can thrive and grow, and then finally shifting the perception of computer science in conversations like this so we know that it is high paying, it is sexy, and it is something that can provide us with generational wealth.
Great. And so when you think about, because at the end of the day, there's a problem in tech. There's not enough women in tech. And so a lot of firms are trying to make sure they get that talent in the door, and they want us in the door. So when you think about your background and your experiences, what are those traditional skills that you feel has helped you and it helps you today in your current job?
Do you want to go first? Okay. So speaking from the point of view of how I started in the industry was on the commercial field sales side. And being in the biotech space, there is the need for salespeople. You need to be able to sell. Whether you are customer-facing in front of a physician one-on-one, or whether you've moved into other parts of the organization like I have right now in marketing and need to sell an idea. That's a skill that is a necessity to survive. Now, what kind of falls under that umbrella of sales, right? There's relationship building. There's the business acumen piece that you need to at least understand the business. The healthcare industry has shifted majorly in the 17 years that I've been in it. So how do you understand the whole ecosystem of what influences how a product gets to a patient, how it gets to a physician, how government agencies like Medicare and Medicaid make decisions about what's going to be on their pathways. There is teamwork and collaboration, right? Because if you're going to sell in this space, you can't do it on your own. There's other people that need to be brought along with you. So having the skill, the ability to influence selling, driving relationships, being someone who's a great team player, and someone who is strategic, I think are really important skills to have.
Okay.
I see my role also as being the bridge in the divide. And so we hear so often that there's a pipeline issue. And we know in this room that that is a myth. Like, the pipeline is there, right. The talent is there. We are in this room right now. And so a big part of my role and the skills that I brought over is connecting those dots. You know, if we say that there's a pipeline challenge, well, guess what? I'm going to show up in spaces and prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. And provide an opportunity and platform for those connections to be made. So that's one. So relationship building and cultivation is one. But then also making sure that you are able to drive impact and measure your work. And so that cuts across every industry, I think. So when we talk about, you know, big ideas, the work that we want to do, if we're not moving the needle, then we failed. And so being able to show the ROI on any investment that we've made, but also better position us as a company to say, okay, if we haven't gotten this right, then we need to take the serious steps to make those adjustments, to measure the work and show real impact. And so that's the second. And then finally, I'll say just, it's so important for us to think about what we're transferring into the business as being a unique value point, a unique selling point. So when I go into meetings, I'm very clear that I'm different in that room. And so I find not only is it my responsibility to represent us well, but to make sure that they understand that the unique value that we bring to these conversations is our deep connection in the community that we have. So you cannot have transactional relationships with our community. Mm-hmm. You have to have real relationships, do the work, and really show and prove in these spaces. And so for me, I humbly say that, you know, I believe that I bring that track record into that company, and it's something that, you know, is a huge value point as we move and try to make progress.
Yeah. And it sounds like what both of you are saying, it's really, you do a fabulous job doing it, articulating your value proposition, right? What you're bringing to the table. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that you're going into a field, an unfamiliar field, what would you say, how did you overcome that roadblock or getting in your way or build that confidence to step out and do that?
Well, I don't advise this, but for me, ignorance was bliss because I had no idea what I was doing, honestly, when I got in there. But what helped me was that I had individuals who believed and saw something in me. What I would say is, in my opinion, your value proposition is only as good as you understand your customer or the business that you're trying to become a part of. For example, so working in healthcare and in the tech industry, like I mentioned before, the industry has changed. There's a new ecosystem that affects, you know, how a product gets to a patient. So if you can understand what the pain points are, understand an organization's or a brand's mission and the value, and be able to align what you bring to the table with maybe bridging some gaps or furthering a cause or what have you, I think that's really how you best demonstrate your value proposition. And it's more authentic to who you are, because you can take those skills that you have and legitimately say, I can be a new addition in a new way to kind of help you to affect your business. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. My approach when I intentionally started applying for positions in tech, because I was very intentional. I didn't apply in any other industry. I wanted to work in tech. Ended up with 3 offers at the time of my acceptance at Google. And I'll never forget walking into those interviews with 3 major companies. And I said, you know what? This was a conversation with myself. I'm going to show up in these interviews unapologetically black and unapologetically a woman.
Girl.
And we have to be, I mean, and y'all know what I mean when I say that. Like, that is a choice that we have to make. And I made that commitment to myself because I knew that I owed it to myself and I owed it to us to really be authentically who I am in this space. And if you choose to move forward with that, then great. If you don't, then I'm okay with that. So I never wanted to operate from a place of desperation. And so my unique selling point in those conversations was I'm a black woman who graduated from an HBCU. I have 18 years of experience working in this industry, not in this industry, in this, within the skill set. And I bring to you community expertise. I bring to you deep relationships, and I bring to you an authentic ability to go into these rooms and put us in a better position, but if this company from the top down is willing to back me up.
Right.
And if you're not willing to back me up in these conversations, I will not accept the offer should I receive one, because I'm not here to check a box. I'm not here for just a check. I'm here to do the real work. And I would walk out.
Yeah.
And I got 3 offers. I was like, either they are going to kick me out of the door or they are going to realize I am exactly what they needed. And thank God they did, but that was a risk that I had to take because I really wanted the opportunities, but I knew it had to be right in order for me to do it.
So I'm about to go work for her.
We can work for each other.
Well, and I think both of you, I mean, you have the confidence, right? Like what you're saying, that was really inspiring. And all of you have probably read the statistics, or you see it yourself at your companies and organizations. Yeah. Our male counterparts have no problem. There's a job and maybe they only meet 50% of those qualifications. They have no problem going ahead and putting their hats in the you know, in the pool. And guess what? A lot of times they wind up getting the job. So it sounds like just exuding that confidence, which you were saying, Stephanie, you know what you're bringing to the table, be authentic to what you're bringing to the table. You don't need to, you know, pretend that you have a skill set that you don't have, but this is what's needed.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of build on that, you know, obviously I don't have a clinical background, but I sit in the room every single day with individuals who are pharmacists, who are MDs, who have biomedical, you know, degrees, all of this. They can break down statistics on a clinical trial. It takes me a minute. Google is my friend, okay? But seriously, so I don't try to compete on that space because I have to own my own dirt, which is I understand what it means. I spent 16 years before coming into the marketing side last year in front of the customer as a sales manager, as a rep, all of that. So I understand that piece of it. So that's really the value that I bring to the table with marketing. Yes, I can understand confidence intervals and p-values and all that kind of stuff. But I ain't going back to school to get a medical degree. It's not going to happen.
And if I could add one thing to Stephanie's point, whenever we get into these companies and into these spaces, we've got to co-sign the other sister in the room.
Yes.
So if we see another sister around that table and she offers a recommendation or a strategy, just give a subtle, I agree with that, +1, and here's why. And you will be surprised at just how giving voice to the other sister in the room will just elevate you both.
Yes.
There's no competition.
Absolutely. Yes. I just wish there were more sisters in the room with me, but that's a whole that's why we're here. Yeah.
So it sounds like, I know, Stephanie, you gave in your example how you explained you had those supporters or the mentors that help you along the way. And I know in a lot of the sessions, folks talked about how do I get that mentor. So can you kind of speak to your experience and how do you gain that to, you know, leap into that tech sector?
Yeah. Well, the way I started was a little bit unconventional because it just so happened that there was an individual who I was dating who helped me, you know, get started in the industry. I mean, that's just the reality. But as I've stayed and continued to progress and be successful, I've come to things like this. I've gone to conferences, whether they are healthcare related or not, and I've sought out women, even whether they are women who looked like me or even white men, to be honest with you, and white women who have taken an interest. I've demonstrated my success, like you said, being able to prove your results. And I've asked, you know, what advice can you give me? I've tried to put myself in spaces where I have opportunity to align myself with individuals. But also within my organization, I've just worked hard. I've done good work. And I have also not been shy about promoting myself, you know, when I've needed to, and really be an advocate for myself, not obnoxiously, but being an advocate. And that has drawn individuals to actually want to help me. So what I would say is be willing to be bold in many ways and ask and, you know, for what you may need from individuals, but also be willing, make sure that you're also doing the work, you know, to back it up so that they will want to continue to support you.
Got it. Anything on that?
I just add also sponsorship. So mentorship is the first step, but sponsorship is the second. So when you're able to show and prove the work, when you're able to receive all the advice that you can from mentors, sometimes you need an actual sponsor who's at that most senior level that can put you in the game. And so once you're in that type of position, seek out sponsorship too, because you'll be surprised at how just that one moment of validation from a senior leader can just catapult you within the organization.
And the position that I'm in right now in marketing, my sponsor got me that position. He really pushed me to make the decision. I was not trying to be in South San Francisco right now, but I'm here because he said, this is a position that you need to be in. I'm going to make it happen for you, and you need to go now. You need to move now, and I did. So.
Right. And I know we've had some dialogue. We've talked about just the different types of, lines of technology and things that folks should consider. So I don't know, Valeisha, I think you may have shared something along that.
What was it?
Around just there's engineering, there's the medical field.
So yes, so just to give you an idea of some of the non-traditional careers, you have marketing, legal. Kawana King from our legal team is in the room. You have our educational division, our research division, sales. And so really think outside the box, because once our engineers make those products, they now need an entire marketing team to sell that product and to find the consumer base. And so as you think about those opportunities, think a bit outside the box, because I can guarantee you that you can find a space if you want it within these companies.
Yeah.
Another question I know I get from folks that I mentor is around, should I go back and get a degree? What certifications should I get? What classes should I take? Do you have any suggestions in that area?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go back to school and get a biochemistry degree. I don't have any desire. I'm a creative person. I'm actually a writer. That is my first love. So what I did do, and Genentech paid for it, thank you very much, I went back and got my master's in public health with a focus on health policy and management. And what that allowed for me it wasn't necessarily to get that next position, but at the time that I went back and got my master's, and I finished it in 2014, that was right when the Affordable Care Act had just been made law. And I felt that there was a need to have a greater understanding, again, of this major shift that's happening in the industry. And I needed to educate myself on it because nobody was really talking about it as much at the time. And so that was a choice that I made. I think it's just making sure that you're staying current. In the biotech industry, unless you're looking to be a scientist, yes, go back to school. But if you have a background in finance, like Valeisha mentioned, if you're a finance person in background, if you are an attorney by background, all them patents and working with the FDA and all of that, you're needed. Billions of dollars, we need finance people. So I don't think there's for me, there's not a certification that I think, but I think you do need to be smart and make sure that you understand the industry that you're going to step into.
Anything on that, Valeisha?
I would just agree. I think it's a personal choice. I don't think that's required or mandatory. I don't have a degree beyond my bachelor's, but some of the most senior people in our company do have MBAs. And so I think it's a personal choice. I consider myself an activist at my core, and I've been able to negotiate and leverage those points to accelerate because that's critical to the business. And so the main thing is making sure that whatever your skill set, you are able to show the effect to the business and the bottom line that you can create as a result of your work. And so you'll find that you can navigate in those spaces without, but even better if you have.
Yeah. Good. And so, okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. So I think we have some mics around. We have right here on this aisle.
Hi. Question for you both. So since you've been in the tech industry, how have you seen the industry grow with women? And what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about making the switch into the tech industry?
We have a long way to go. And we need more young women like you in our industry. Just to be honest, I mean, the numbers are no secret. The tech industry as a whole has a serious challenge with representation of us. Google is no exception. And so we definitely have to do more on our side to make sure that we are hiring at the rate of market supply because we're out there, we exist, we're ready for those roles. But it was the best decision I ever made. And I mean that, not just because of the work that I do, which is the driver, but I have found personal happiness in my professional career. And that means a lot, right? So to really enjoy the work that you do, even though there are many times that I'm walking through the halls and the only one in the meetings who looks like me, I know that, it's a great responsibility, right? And one that I take seriously and just a great decision. So yes, I think that you should absolutely consider it if it's something that's on your heart.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it is very difficult. I'm not going to lie. And even when you're there, it can be very frustrating. And you have to learn to take a breath. What did Iyanla say? Take care of yourself, or
first.
Yeah, take care of yourself first, because it's very real. But you know why you're there. And for me, the fact that at the end of everything that I do as a patient, as an individual who needs what we have and what we're providing, and I believe in it, that helps me to want to stay in the game. Even when I don't have any of this, with me, on a daily basis, but I take it with me, in every room that I step into.
Okay, we have another question here.
It's right here. Good afternoon. Kelly Brinkley, United Way. And my question is, I get calls from headhunters all the time, whether it be legal, I've been in legal, investment banking, all of those things, but I tell you, tech just completely eludes me. I have no idea how to get on the radar of a headhunter when it comes to tech. Because quite frankly, those jobs I see listed, I'm just not interested in. I'm a little beyond that in my career, quite frankly, and so just some thoughts on how do you get on the radar of those companies. And I'm also in DC, which means I'm not even on the West Coast. So it's that extra hurdle.
Yeah. I think, and that's a very common frustration with getting into it. One of the things that I would suggest is if you have the opportunity to attend conferences, seminars, meetings where you can connect with other that are tech focused, where you can actually connect with other professionals. I know at Genentech, I know that we have recruiting partnerships with National Sales Network, National Black MBA. So if you're a member of any of those, you can go there and kind of get on the radar that way. LinkedIn is your friend. You can find recruiters and individuals in that space as well. But trying to really, it's hard, but trying to network, trying to find places where you can put yourself in the space where these individuals are, because all it takes is one person, like what happened with me, to advocate for you. So
I'll quickly add DC offices. Tech companies, most of them have DC offices that focus on policy. So get to know your policy folks in those offices because they have the end to the other positions. And then the second thing that I'll offer is don't take every position that you see online for face value. So the position that I applied for has nothing to do with what I do now. And so once you get in, you go through your interview process, they like you, they know they need you, then I negotiated for what I needed that scope to be and was able to get it. And so just find your entry point in the place that most aligns with you, but then go in and negotiate for what you need once you realize that you have what they want.
Hi, good afternoon. Gigi Mormon, Raise Your Glass Promotions. I'm on the board of a local organization here in Orlando. It's called the Greatest Investment Girls Empowerment Camp. And so my question is, when we are looking for the larger corporations to come in and show our girls some STEM work and to show them about the biomedical field, things that they have not had exposure to before, which is our basis of the camp, open their eyes to experiences that are new, how do we get the attention of companies like Google and the larger corporations when typically their funding and programming go to the larger groups like UNCF and United Way and Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah, that's good. You want to start that?
Sure. So I can speak for Google. So we have a couple of arms that focus on STEM education for girls. One is our Google.org arm. So if you'll check that out, that's the philanthropic arm, but grants for young people in STEM. But then also we have other arms. For example, our Black Girls Code partnership is an example of that, our Girls Who Code partnership. But there are also local grants available for those programs. So I would make sure that you're checking those out as well. And then the final piece is we actually have at Google now incubators that we've created for computer science education for 8th grade students who are Black and Latino. And so another opportunity perhaps for you to partner with that program if you don't find exact funds that are available, where you could partner and provide the content and resources and programming that you may need to at least start the partnership.
Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question, but if you have an empty seat next to you, please raise your hand because we do have a lot of people who need to be seated. And if we can ask to do not hold a seat, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle here from Amazon. I recently made the switch. I'm in finance and recently made the switch to technology with Amazon. But prior to that, worked for a smaller firm in financial services. And what I found, and I think this question is for you, Ms. Valeisha, that if you don't have a dedicated resource or a dedicated person around community engagement, it's really hard. And I was a hiring manager to put forward the argument that hiring a woman, hiring someone of color is not high risk, even though you have lower resources and fewer resources to try someone different in a role like finance or technology. What are some points or some ways of communicating the value of having diversity in these type of sectors, in these roles, if you don't have someone in your position in the company?
Great question. I'll give you 3 quick points. One is the black tax is very real. We know what the black tax is, right? So when we're in these companies, we carry the responsibility, whether it's our role or not, to do this work. It's not right, it's not fair, but it is our responsibility. And so most of us find ourselves in those positions. The second piece is the ERGs. So if you already have an employee resource group, which I'm pretty sure Amazon does, working within your ERG, which in our case would be black employees of that company, and really leverage your collective power. And so if you can collectively say as a group, our black employees are saying that this is a priority for our business, and here's the proof point of why. You can leverage that mass, that critical mass of people within your organization to get what you want. The final piece is showing the business case for it. And so if you can show the black consumer numbers at 1.2 trillion, if you can show the black voting power of black women on election day, if you can pull all of that data and wrap it up in a pretty report, 1 or 2 pages that gives you the opportunity that Amazon is missing by not tapping into the black consumer segment, it is a missed window.
Yes.
And if they are not willing to dedicate resources, then they are going to lag behind in their ability to be competitive in that industry. So when you show that, and if they still don't buy, we should have an offline conversation. That's all I got.
Okay. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this. Hopefully it answers some questions. I think our bios are also listed in the app. Feel free to reach out. Most of us are on LinkedIn and social media and things like that. So thank you all for coming to Crack the Code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.